It's time for the best coverage of the top stories in sports. The Sports Wrap with Jason Page starts now.
Yes, it does. Thank you, Chad Erickson, and great to have you with us on this Wednesday edition of the program. Patrick McEnroe will be by in about 20 minutes. We'll get some thoughts with him. French Open, second Grand Slam of the tennis season, wide open on the men's side. The usual suspects on the women's side. And I got to get his thoughts on Serena Williams teasing a comeback. We'll get to all of that. I'm sure Patrick has a lot to say about everything, so we'll talk with him coming up in about 20 minutes here on the program. But we start things out in the NBA. How can you not? After what we all witnessed on Tuesday night, just turn off the video. Just turn off the video for a second here, okay? I had thought, and I talked about this with Kurt Heelan on the show yesterday, I had thought that the Pacers' best shot in this series was game one. You're not going to have Porzingis. Now it turns out you're probably not going to have Porzingis till game four from all the published reports out there when it comes to the Celtics. But I felt like game one, long layoff for Boston, a team that kind of coasts at moments, flips the switch, so to speak, at times. I thought that the opportunity for Indiana was game one of this series. Come back down double digits twice in this game. You're up late with every opportunity in the world to put away this game one. The fans were silent with 30 seconds left at TD Garden. And you turn the ball over twice in the final 30 seconds. You don't foul when you're up 3 and Boston has the ball and limited timeouts and limited resources at that stage of the game. You just don't deserve. Look, I said this yesterday on the show, Sam, and I will say it again. This team beat the Knicks because the Knicks were down 5 friggin' starters by the time the series ended. This is a good basketball team with talented players, but it is a team that is not championship ready. They're going to get, this was it. They had every chance last night, and they threw it away. And you got Rick Carlisle after the game standing up there saying, I take the blame for this one. He coached a terrible series against the Knicks, and he got away with it. I'm done. I'm just done.
My takeaway was a little bit different. It was that the Celtics they're an unstoppable force. I mean, in that fourth quarter, Jason Tatum played horribly. He played terribly.
Awful.
And the Celtics still found a way to get it to overtime. Obviously, the huge Jaylen Brown 3 and force overtime and then get the win in overtime. This team is unstoppable. There's no one who is going to stop the Boston Celtics. I thought the Pacers played a pretty good game. Like, yeah, there was one coaching mishap there at the end, but
it's a huge
otherwise,
mishap.
The Pacers played a decent game, just like they did against the Knicks. The Celtics are not going to be stopped by anyone in these playoffs.
Hey, Sam,
there's no team in the West that'll stop them.
I disagree.
They'll be done with the Pacers in 5 max.
I disagree that nobody in the West can stop them. I do think the Mavericks could beat them. But put that aside for a second. It's not even here's what's worse about Carlisle. This is Rick Carlisle post-game. Listen to what he says as he gets up to talk to the media. Watch this.
Well, I love the way our guys fought in this game. This loss is totally on me. With 10 seconds in regulation, we should have just taken the timeout, advanced the ball, and found a way to get it in and made a free throw or two and ended the game. But
when you get up and say the game is on you, and you don't even know the mistake you actually made, that's even worse than the mistakes you made. He didn't even know that the mistake he made was telling his team the second the ball gets in, you foul. And all I hear is, well, it's not the philosophy. It's not what the Pacers do. They never play the foul when up 3 situation. No, they never do that. The Pacers don't do that. Can you imagine being so locked in, so rigid, that you don't adjust to the situation in the moment? It reminds me of Dan Campbell with the Lions coaching in the playoffs like it's a regular season game. Well, this is, we just go for it. This is what we do. We don't kick field goals. How'd that work out?
So the reason, and obviously neither of us NBA head coaches, and if he's saying something that he did wrong, that is, more than likely that would have won them the game. You can't rely on, though, Jason, in terms of fouling up 3. That's expecting the make, and it's stopping the clock. You don't want them to get points with no time running off the clock.
You don't give them a chance to tie the game, Sam.
If anything, you're playing against a team that is shooting 33%. You can play the numbers game, and you've got a 67% chance that they don't make it. I don't agree necessarily with the logic of letting the other team who you're leading score points without letting time run off the clock. I don't necessarily think that ever should have been the answer. But in terms of advancing the ball, he is right. That is what would have won them the game, and it would have ended everything. Well,
they could have still. Look, even if you call a timeout, you could turn it over on the inbound play. You're just at half court. You're not. On your own end of the floor. That's a mistake unto itself. But to not foul. They make both free throws, you're up 1. You play the free throw game. There's not enough time for them in that situation because they're out of timeouts. So to me, it is beyond negligent. It is beyond negligent as the head coach. And there were enough coaching mistakes for him coaching in that Knicks series that I'm done. Look, everything had to go right for them in order to beat Boston anyway. It was going to take a perfect series, and this team's not capable of playing a perfect series, and they're not capable of getting a coached perfect series, which they need. If you had told me, 12 months ago, that you'd have a series with Joe Mazzulla and Rick Carlisle, and that those would be the 2 head coaches in a series, I'd say, hey, the team with Rick Carlisle is going to have the advantage from a coaching standpoint. I didn't see it last night. There aren't a lot of huge decisions that coaches have to make in the course of the game. I say this all the time in different sports. You got to get them right. And he didn't. And he's damn right he cost his team that game last night. But he didn't even know why he cost them the game, which is even more perplexing to me. Play 82 games, 100 games with the postseason. Let that team down. We'll talk some baseball on the other side.
Over 13 million Americans were affected by identity theft in 2022, and the threats go way beyond just credit card fraud. Today's identity thieves can use your information in ways that are easy to miss by just monitoring accounts and credit, like opening loans, transferring home titles, even committing crimes.
Someone got my social security number, made a driver's license, and it was used for criminal activity.
You can do so much with a social security number that I didn't know could happen. They drained my bank account. It was terrifying.
You're even more vulnerable than you realize. Your information is exposed through online shopping, banking, even corporate data breaches. No wonder there's a new victim of identity theft every 3 seconds. Only LifeLock alerts you to the widest volume of threats all in one place, like someone trying to use your social security number, open a new loan in your name, or even commit a crime in your name.
There was a big yes button and there was a big no button. I clicked, that's not me, and LifeLock took it from there.
If you become a victim of identity theft, a dedicated U.S.-based restoration specialist will be assigned to your case and work to fix the issue on your behalf.
If something happens, you have somebody fighting for you.
All LifeLock members are backed by the LifeLock $1 Million Protection Package, including reimbursement for stolen funds, personal expenses, and coverage for lawyers and experts up to $1 million. It can be dangerously easy to steal your identity. With LifeLock, it's easy to help protect yourself.
I will be with LifeLock forever.
Join the millions of people already protected by LifeLock. And for a limited time, save 25% on your first year with promo code 25TV. All plans include a 60-day money-back guarantee.
Call 800-710-7531.
Or visit lifelock.com/25TV to save 25% on your first year of identity theft protection. Enroll now.
Attention families with a loved one in a nursing home. If your loved one has suffered from bed sores, falls, broken bones, dehydration, or even death, you may be entitled to a substantial settlement. If you have a loved one who is injured in a nursing home, we will find out what happened. State violations are found against nursing homes every day. You have a limited time to file your claim, so don't wait. Call 800-398-5999 and speak with one of our attorneys. The call is confidential and free.
All right, we welcome you back to the show. Patrick McEnroe coming up in about 10 minutes. Talk about all things French Open tennis with him as he gets ready to head off to Roland Garros. A little bit of baseball. Did some yesterday, taking stock in where we are at the halfway point of the season. And one of the great stories of this baseball season, Sam, is Ranger Suarez and the Philadelphia Phillies. I mean, Suarez has been out of this world. He's got a sub-2 ERA. We're talking about a team that is, now 9, or rather Suarez, who is 9-0 for a 35-win, baseball team at this point. And, I mean, Suarez is doing phenomenal thing. We haven't had a forget it. I can't even remember the last time we had a 20-game winner. We haven't had a 30-game winner since Denny McLain back in the 60s, I believe. 28, I think, was what Bob Welch might have won in the late 80s, early 90s with the A's. I mean, right now you're talking about a guy that's on a pace to potentially win 30 games with this sub-2 ERA. Statistically right now on pace for one of the greatest pitching seasons we've seen in a generation. He doesn't walk anybody. He's striking guys out. What's there to not be excited about?
So in baseball last year, Jason, there was one 20-game winner.
Who won 20 last year?
That was Spencer Strider
okay.
In a historic season where he struck out, I believe, a historic number of batters. There hasn't been a 25-game winner. Like you said, Bob Welch, that 1990 Oakland Athletics team that was outstanding. Ranger Suarez has been very, very good this season. Let's not get it twisted. And this Phillies team is the best in baseball right now for my money. I know people will sit here and say Yankees and Dodgers, and the Braves have been a letdown, but they'll Yankee and Dodger me to death. But I'll stand right now on the Philadelphia Phillies being the best team in baseball. Now, all that said, I do think that Ranger Suarez is getting a little bit too much hype. I think you're giving him a little more credit than he deserves. I think I talked about this couple of weeks ago on the program that I saw Ranger Suarez being compared by a Phillies fan to Cole Hamels. And then this morning after his most recent start, you see I log on to Twitter and I see Phillies fans comparing Ranger Suarez to Cliff Lee. I got news for you, Philly fans. He's not going to come close to either of those guys. But that said, Ranger Suarez has been good this season. He's been great this season. I mean, he's been twice as good as the league average pitcher this year. He's run into a little bit of luck. But all that said, every good pitcher needs a little bit of luck here and there. Ranger Suarez is having a good year. We've seen him do this before.
Why is it? So what would tell you that it's not sustainable? Come on, give me your geek stats. Go ahead. I'll sit here and endure it. I'm asking for it.
When we talk about the advanced analytics around Ranger Suarez, he's near 95th to 99th percentile in just about everything when you're looking at expected batting average, expected exit velocity, that kind of, or average exit velocity, so on and so forth. But can a pitcher like Ranger Suarez, who throws a 91.8 mile per hour fastball on average, sustain that over the course of the season? more often than not, we will not see him do that. When you look at a number like when you compare, for instance, Jason, his ERA is earned run average to his fielding independent pitching, his FIP. He's leading the league in ERA. He's 10th in the league in FIP. Now, granted, a discrepancy is not uncommon. Normally,
but 10th in the league is still not terrible.
No. Like I said at the beginning of this, very good season. We've seen Ranger Suarez do this before. In 2021, he spent half that year coming out of the bullpen, but he still had this good of a season in 2021. He is having an unquestionably very good season. He is not Cole Hamels and he is not Cliff Lee, guys who were perennial Cy Young candidates. Ranger Suarez is 6 years into his major league career. Okay, Cliff Lee and Cole Hamels had already won Cy Youngs by this point in both of their careers. Cliff Lee had. Check me on Cole Hamels. That may not be correct. Anyway, Ranger Suarez, he will be fine. He will be a very decent pitcher. This season, he might lead that Phillies rotation. I think it'll be Zach Wheeler. I would still put my American money on Zach Wheeler to win Cy Young over Ranger Suarez, but he could lead this Phillies rotation this year that we already established early in the segment. Very good ball club. Do I think Ranger Suarez is an ace on any team in Major League Baseball heading into next season or at the beginning of this season or at the beginning of any season? No. Ranger Suarez is a very good number 3 starter. You want to know a perfect player comp for me? Gio Gonzalez. Like, he pitches like Kyle Hendricks, but when you're talking about the role that this guy plays, he's the Gio Gonzalez. He is a third starter in a rotation, which is great, and he's very good at his job. However, he'll come out and win 20 games every here and again.
And by the way, Vegas agrees with you. They got Zach Wheeler at 350, Imanaga at 480, and Ranger Suarez at 500.
Click the Imanaga button. Click the Imanaga button. I would throw everything on Imanaga right now. That guy's untouchable.
FanDuel has Wheeler at 350, Imanaga at 480, Suarez at 500, Glasnow at 900 along with Sale, and Dylan Cease at 1,600. That's what you got right now. Yeah.
Those LLs and LWs from our preseason baseball shows, Jason.
I love Cease.
If you remember the day that Dylan Cease got traded from the White Sox to the Padres, I came on this very show and I said I would put a little bit of a sprinkle on Dylan Cease to win the NL Cy Young at 25-1. That number's down to 16. And at times this season, we've seen it as short as 10.
Mariners beat the Yankees last night. 2 games in a row, Yankees fall to the Mariners. In the words of my buddy Dave Sims, hey now. Clark Schmidt said he thought he was tipping his pitches, by the way, which is why he gave up some home runs in that game.
All right, Clark, listen, if you're tipping pitches, the other guy's still got to hit them. And that's exactly what I'm going to say about this whole 2-game stretch here for the Yankees. I don't think it's as much an indictment on the Yankees. I think they'll be fine. They've already kind of flexed their muscles enough this year. The Seattle Mariners are finally coming out of their shell.
Yeah, the Mariners are the story.
Seattle Mariners are finally starting to grow up, and they're showing you that they can compete. We know that Julio Rodriguez historically not good in March and April. That extended to May this season, but hey, he'll turn it around in June. I'm still confident in the Seattle Mariners.
Yep. Watch the Mariners. I think they could wind up coming out of that AL West in a year where the Astros are down and the Rangers are struggling for starting pitching.
Told you preseason.
We're coming back. Patrick McEnroe joins us on the other side to talk about the French Open. Rolling along on this Wednesday edition of the show, I have promised Patrick McEnroe, and a Patrick McEnroe we have.
Promise delivered, you know?
Well, it's because of you, of course. ESPN tennis commentator. See him on news networks, News Nation. He is he's got the John McEnroe Tennis Academy. He's got the International Tennis Hall of Fame. He's got ESPN. He's got nothing to do. He's got nothing to do.
We got to keep a few balls in the air, Jason. You know how that goes. You know how that.
By the way, your brother's always at Madison Square Garden at Knick games. I see him on TV. You don't ever go?
You know, when you've won 77 titles and 7 majors, not to mention a few in doubles, you get a little more play than the guy that won 1 title in your career. So, it was funny because I was talking to him yesterday or the day after the Knicks lost. He was at the game 7, and he's like, yeah, I get the seats. I've been going. He's been a Knicks fan for years.
Yes, he has.
And here's the funny thing about it, Jason, is they sometimes call him during the season, like, mid-December, January game when there's not that much buzz, to get him to come so they can have a couple of celebs in the crowd. And he's like, I got to say yes because, if I want to ask for tickets for the playoffs, you got to put your time in. So I don't get the call that often. Once in a while, he'll throw me a bone, but he's got his own kids to take care of and his wife. So I watched it on TV. You could see in the first quarter that the Knicks had nothing left physically. They were, I was afraid that was going to happen even after the first 2 games when they were up 2-0.
Talk to me about the men's side because it feels like, and you can tell me if I'm wrong when it comes to this French Open, it feels like the men's side is just wide open right now because, Djokovic obviously isn't playing well. We saw him in Rome. Nadal's not healthy. We know he loves the clay at Roland Garros and what that tournament means to him. Zverev does a great job, wins in Rome. Give me some sense for where your head is at right now when it comes to the men's side.
Wide open would be a little extreme, but it's as wide open as it's been in a long, long time. It's not like, the women's field, it's actually become a little more predictable. It's Swiatek's domination. We'll get to that later. Yeah. The men's side, not only with the injuries that noted to Djokovic, I mean, he hasn't really been injured. He got hit on the head with the water bottle in Rome, which was bizarre. It's amazing how the weirdest things always seem to happen to Novak Djokovic, but the guy, I expect that he'll be ready to go there. I mean, even if you take that away, okay, what happened in Rome, which was bizarre, my sense of where he has been this year after losing in the semis of the Australian was that it's a French Open coming up. It's Wimbledon, the Olympics. Don't forget about that. That's huge for him because he's never won a medal in the Olympics, and he desperately wants that. This will be his last chance. And then, of course, the U.S. Open. So you got these next 3 months where pretty much for him especially, is the entire season. So I think he'll be good to go. At the moment, Alcaraz is a slight favorite to win it. Now, the thing with Alcaraz is he's had a forearm issue, Jason, which I think it's a lot better than having a leg issue for a tennis player or an ankle or a knee issue because he's been able to put in his work on the court, running, doing all the fitness. So physically from the legs down, which is the most important for a tennis player, I think he'll be fine. The question is, will his arm be able to handle the wear and tear? And Sinner's also, his injury is more to the hip that he's had the last couple of weeks. Darren Cahill, his coach, works with us at ESPN, told me he's back practicing, not going full out yet, but they hope to have him ready by go time. And if he can get through the first couple of rounds, he'd be in there. But as you said, Zverev, this might be his chance. Tsitsipas, who won Monte Carlo and has played well traditionally on clay, is his best surface. This could be the opportunity for those like Casper Ruud, who's made the last 2 French Open finals, losing to Nadal and Djokovic. So for those guys, you got to be chomping at the bit right now saying, this might be my best chance to actually win this thing.
I mean, Taylor Fritz at plus 7,000 on FanDuel and in Vegas. That's right. the highest American when it comes to the odds, which means they're not expecting much from the Americans here at the French. Give me some reason for hope.
Well, I think there's reason for hope for a couple guys like Fritz at the top of the list, who's played really well on clay this year, and Tommy Paul, who got to the semifinals in Rome. Those guys have won a lot of matches in the clay court season. But the reason the odds are so high for those guys is for them to win in Paris, best of 5, is an absolute long shot. I mean, there's no doubt that they could make it to the round of 16, to the quarters. But 2 out of 3, they have a better chance. They play that more aggressive style American game. They've worked hard to be good clay court players. But if they're going up against some of these big guys on clay, they're heavy, and the big guys, I mean, the guys I just mentioned, they're a huge underdog. So if we have one or two players, Jason, on the men's side, we meaning Americans, in the week 2 of the French Open, that's a good result for the U.S.
I got about 35 seconds left in this segment. Pick me a winner on the men's side.
You know, I mean, normally I would pick it. It's hard to pick it because there's so many question marks about the health. So I would do it after round 1 or 2 when I can see these guys. But no, because you got to see how they are physically. As I said, I think this is a chance for Zverev, Tsitsipas. I mean, those two guys have played great. They've both been in major finals before, Tsitsipas, including at the French. Rude, you know, I'd be surprised if he makes another final. But I think those two guys, big hitters, move well. Medvedev is not as comfortable on clay. So I think it's an opportunity. If Alcaraz is healthy, 100%, to me, he's the favorite and he can win it. He will win it. But it's going to be very intriguing because we haven't even talked about Rafa and kind of where he fits, like how he looks. Can he get through? If he gets through 2 rounds, Nadal, I mean, look out because, history's on his side. And then he starts to get the fear factor going. And the other thing we got to watch for, Jason, is to see how the draw pans out because you got Nadal unseeded. He could play Djokovic in round 1 or Alcaraz in round 1. So that's going to be very interesting to see when the draw comes out at the end of this week.
All right, more conversation with Patrick McEnroe on the French Open. We'll get to the women's side as we continue on this Wednesday edition of Sports Wrap. Don't go anywhere.
Attention families with a loved one in a nursing home. If your loved one has suffered from bed sores, falls, broken bones, dehydration, or even death, you may be entitled to a substantial settlement. If you have a loved one who is injured in a nursing home, we will find out what happened. State violations are found against nursing homes every day. You have a limited time to file your claim, so don't wait. Call 800-398-5999 and speak with one of our attorneys. The call is confidential and free.
More French Open talk, tennis talk. Our friend Patrick McEnroe hanging out with us. I gotta admit, before I get to the women's side of this, I'm going to talk about Serena and this tweet that she put out. This tweet that she put out there, and there it is on the screen for those who wonder what I'm talking about, where she said she's ready to hit some balls.
Okay.
None of these things get put out there by accident. Week of the French Open starting. She's making it known, like Cher, she's going to have 17 different retirement tours, apparently.
Well, she's hosting the ESPYs, right? So that's big. I saw that announcement. That's usually right after Wimbledon. So, she's got 2 kids now. I'll never say never. I mean, there's only one Serena, so we'd love to see her come back, but
would you? Do you want to see her play? I mean, if she says she wants to play,
I don't think it's going to happen.
Really?
But I mean, why not? I mean, if she wants to do it, but it would take a tremendous amount of work, right? For her to get back in shape and in a match shape and all that. So, I don't see it happening.
If she was sincere about this, and this is the start of that, could she be ready to play Wimbledon?
If she started right now?
Yes.
No. She could not be. Unless she's been practicing that I don't know about for months. I mean, that would take her, you got to give yourself a good 3 to 4 months. And, I don't know if she's been doing any other fitness stuff. If she was in great shape and had been training, and I'm not talking about, going to the gym a couple times a week, like actually training to be a professional tennis player, then you could probably get back to where hitting the balls comes pretty quickly. But you're talking about taking care of your body and being in great shape to maintain yourself and deal with the wear and tear. So if you're starting from scratch, like if you haven't done anything, I think realistically you've got to give yourself 4 to 6 months.
Tune-ups, Could you see her playing a tune-up event here, to try and get ready for if it's the U.S. Open then, because you don't think she could do it for Wimbledon? Could you see her playing it?
You'd have to do a couple of tournaments. I mean, it's just show up at a major. That would be interesting. That would be something that would be very surprising to me if that happened. I don't know. I think she just puts that out there to get people like us to talk about it. I don't think she's had any real interest in coming back. The other question is, what about her sister? Venus is still out there playing.
Amazing.
She's won 7 majors. She's older than Serena, and she's still out there, which is amazing that she's still out there trying to play. So we'll see if she plays at Wimbledon. That would obviously be the place where she could win a couple matches. But for the women, French Open, it's all about Iga. I mean, she's not only number 1 in the world, but she's, on clay is by far her best surface. So she's won it a few times already. She's had a great season on clay. And this is interesting because different from how it's been in, the last 15 years, men to women, she's like Rafa, not quite as Rafa, but she's a huge favorite. Whereas at Wimbledon, U.S. Open, you got Sabalenka, you got Rybakina, Coco certainly in the mix. But on clay especially, Iga is a monster favorite.
You mentioned her, and I mean, look, the odds makers sort of bear it out because you got Swiatek at minus 160, and the next closest odds is Sabalenka at plus 500. That is an enormous discrepancy, and especially when you're talking about somebody as talented as Sabalenka. But we just saw them, duel on clay, and the results were kind of obvious. Is there anybody else? I mean, obviously Coco Gauff. Is there? She's got the next best odds after Sabalenka. Rybakina is there. Can you make an argument for somebody if not Sabalenka and obviously Swiatek?
Well, you can make an argument for Rybakina because she's got a huge game, even though clay, is not her best surface. But in the women's game, the surface doesn't matter quite as much. The difference in the surface because they all play relatively the same way. On a clay court that they do on grass or on a hard court. That's actually over the years, even happened more so on the men's side now because clay has become faster, grass has become a little slower. So they're not the same, but they're more similar than they've ever been. Rybakina's got the big game. A little bit for her depends on the weather. If it's warm, if it's hot, the ball tends to travel through the air much quicker. That would be good for her. If it's slow and muddy, it could be rainy there. That could work against her. She could get picked off by someone that's super consistent. But Coco Gauff's the other one. I mean, she's 3 in the world. She's ranked ahead of Rybakina at the moment, and she's made the final of the French, and she's one of the only players that can actually play athletically with Swiatek. She can run with her. But, they played recently in Rome in the semis, and Swiatek won it pretty comfortably. I just think Swiatek's just overall a better ball striker than Coco, and she may not be as fast as her in a foot race, but I think she moves better on the tennis court. She's super fast and super athletic. I mean, they both are. But Coco would be the other one, and the other American you got to look at. It's been an amazing story this year, Jason, is Danielle Collins. Announcing earlier this year, this was her last year. She was tired of playing on the tour. She was gonna be, and since then she's been like on fire. Winning Miami, playing well on the clay, which has never been her best surface. So she comes in just outside the top 10 at number 12, and she's someone that could get hot. Do I think she can win it? Probably not. But if you look at someone like an outsider, not one of the big 3 or 4 that could win it. Maybe it's Zhang from China, very athletic. Maybe it's Jabeur. Not Jabeur. Jabeur's played terrible this year. Sakari from Greece, who was a couple of years ago, was a point or 2 away from getting to the final and winning this thing. She's got the wheels. Does she have the belief when it matters? That's the big question mark for her.
Patrick McEnroe, always appreciate you, my man. Have a safe trip over there. Let's do it again soon, all right?
Anytime, Jason. All the best.
What's up, guys? What I'm about to show you is going to change the way you shave your head forever.
You can shave your head in 90 seconds or less.
With no cuts or nicks. It's 100% waterproof.
It even works in the shower.
Introducing Remington's Balder Boss. With increased flex and 5 dual-track floating head design, get over 60% more head coverage for a faster, closer shave and skin-close results.
No nicks, no scrapes. Fit in the palm of my hand, and the results were amazing.
Shave in the shower or with any foam or gel with Japanese-grade steel blades plow through the thickest of hair. Anytime, anywhere. There's even a pop-up trimmer to complete your perfect groove. Now, you can try the Remington Balder Boss in your home for 30 days for just $14.99. Complete with a 5-year limited warranty and 100% satisfaction guarantee. You can also get our ear, nose, and brow trimmer free. Just pay separate processing and handling.
Give it a try. You won't be disappointed.
Order your Balder Boss now.
Moving along on this Wednesday edition of the show. Later in the week, we'll have a NASCAR preview. Indy 500. Got to preview that as well. Tino Patino will drop by. All sorts of surprises. But we move the conversation to something to consider. Something to consider, Sam Yarnell. Big news that I woke up to this morning, and not totally unexpected news considering what had been reported over the last couple of weeks, and that is the fact that the NBA is working out its next big media rights deal, which would expire at the end of next season. So this wouldn't take place until the 25-26 NBA season. But the news is official, according to Sports Business Journal, that the NBA will no longer be on TNT, that the league is dividing up its media rights package between ESPN, NBC, and Amazon Prime Video. And that means the end of one of, the real institutions in sportscasting today, and that is Inside the NBA on TNT, which, think whatever you want of Charles Barkley, who could be bombastic, or Shaq and Kenny Smith and Ernie Johnson. You put those four guys together, it is gold. Gold, Jerry, gold, almost every night. They've won Emmys. I mean, they are the gold standard. So now the question will become, this is an inside baseball sort of conversation that, we'll be having over the next year or so. Does NBC or Prime Video, which of those two is going to break the bank to try and bring that foursome over? I also wonder this. I have nothing to base this on, by the way. This isn't any special reporting or anything like that I have. I wonder if Ernie Johnson retires. I wonder if he's been a TNT and Turner guy forever. I wonder if Ernie retires rather than go to another network. If his loyalty is so much so to that Turner Warner brand that he says, you guys want to go, you go, but I wonder if it's the end of the show. Yeah, I wonder if this is the end of Inside the NBA. Because everybody just assumes that NBC or Peacock or, Prime Video is just going to jump in and grab those guys. I wonder if it's the end.
So, Jason, just first of all, the Ernie thing was the first thing that popped into my head, too. They'll definitely throw the bag at the other three and try and get them to move over, and I'm sure they will relatively simply. And you wonder if they take one of the other Turner basketball guys, an Adam Lefko or someone like that to try and host the show. One of the guys who fills in when Ernie's obviously out. But Ernie's not going anywhere. He's definitely not going with them. He may retire. That's interesting. Maybe. But 3 weeks ago, Sports Business Journal interviewed him, and they were like, "Hey, if all this stuff goes, what are you gonna do?" And he was like, "I'm not leaving Turner. He's been there too long." And you respect that he's gonna be so loyal to a place that gave him his start and gave him so much time. But it really is sad. if I understand it correctly, so next year will be the last season of their deal with Turner. So at least they'll get a farewell tour. That was the biggest thing for me, because as I originally understood this, I thought it was immediately going to switch over. No, don't worry. We have a whole year to wish them well and say goodbye and maybe convince Ernie to do something and flip over.
Yeah. I mean, there is time. And as much as he might say right now, hey, I'm a Turner guy, the amounts of money that they're going to throw to try and bring that Emmy Award-winning show over to either Prime Video or NBC is going to be staggering. So what NBC is reportedly going to do is, following the end of the Sunday Night Football schedule on NBC throughout the NFL season, they're going to go to like a Basketball in America on Sunday night. So you're going to go from they're going to have a marquee game on Sunday nights on NBC. Now, I'll still say this doesn't solve, the same problems that exist in all these primetime deals are still going to exist. You're going to have, how are you going to make sure that when you have this marquee game on a Sunday night that you're going to have the marquee players playing? Because you've still got the issues of load management that exist. So great. You might think in theory that you can maintain some of that massive, 17, 18, 20 million people that watch Sunday Night Football onto, and they're going to blow it up in terms of promoting. You see what they do with the Olympics. My God. You're going to get that same sort of treatment from NBC when it comes to these NBA broadcasts and promoting them. But you can promote them all day, and then all of a sudden you've got, Warriors, Knicks, and, Julius Randle's shoulder's hurt, and Stephen Curry's taking a night off, and all of a sudden you've got, what's left of those teams playing each other. It's still problematic at the end of the day for the NBA because of the load management issue. I am interested to see how Prime Video. I am very interested to see how Prime Video handles a national broadcast. We've seen how the local stuff goes. They just take local feeds and put them on Prime Video. This is a different animal. This is going to be Prime Video jumping in, and we've seen how they've done it with the NFL, but all they basically did with the NFL was steal away all of the NBC guys that got let go there and hired them to go work with Al Michaels and Kirk Herbstreit. It's going to be a different era, but it is the start of the streaming era.
I hope that they can do it as eloquently with basketball as they did with football, because they did a really good job over there. Credit to them.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. All right, odds and ends are right around the corner. Got a few to get to. We'll do that next. All right, just about time to wrap things up on this Wednesday. Thanks to Patrick McEnroe for hanging out with us. Been a good show today. Before we wrap things up, a reminder, vodcast available on Spotify. Go and subscribe. Maybe you can't DVR the show. Maybe you don't want to watch it on TV. Maybe you just want to catch it on your phone, on your drive, whatever it may be. It's there for you every day. Vodcast, Spotify, Google Play, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, you name it, it's there. All right, time for some odds and ends. Sam Yarnell, odds and ends. 75 for fighting, not 5 for fighting. Kyle Busch and Ricky Stenhouse went at it after their All-Star race on Sunday night, and Ricky Stenhouse Jr. gets the largest fine ever handed down for fighting by NASCAR, $75,000. His dad was suspended indefinitely because he was part of the whole thing. Kyle Busch was not penalized because it was Stenhouse that obviously instigated the whole thing. They had the two cars got together very early in the race. I mean, very, very early. And Stenhouse wasn't very happy about it. In the video, it doesn't look like Kyle Busch did anything wrong. I'm not talking about the fighting, but in the actual racing, I think Stenhouse was just terribly mistaken about how all that played out. We'll ask Tino Patino about it on Friday when he's on the show to get his thoughts, but I didn't think Kyle Busch actually did really anything all that wrong. from what I saw.
And obviously the amount of money, crazy, Jason. It's like what we talked about, the leading cause of all this fight. It's the money is what is so much part of what drives that sport, no pun intended. But yeah, I'm excited to hear what Tino has to say about it. I'm sure he'll have a take.
I am sure he will as well. Antonio Brown is bankrupt. We knew he was bankrupt morally, but now apparently he's also bankrupt financially. Got a thought? No? No?
I was just trying to pull up to see how much money Antonio Brown has made in his career playing in the NFL.
How much did he make?
I'm sure. What?
Do you know how much he made?
No, I don't have it up in front of me yet, but it's crazy how much we see this happen with these NFL veterans and who make this. Like, wasn't there an ESPN documentary on this kind of thing not that long ago called like Broke or something? Yeah, these guys. It's a sad development in the case of Antonio Brown. But
I got it here. He made a lot of money.
$80,744,000.
Yeah,
and that's all gone.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know how bankruptcy works exactly, but I think that means it's all gone.
Yeah, that means you can't pay your bills. Yeah, we'll leave that one because I got a number of thoughts on it, but none of them are any of them are gonna get me in trouble. Barry Bonds is going to be installed into the Pirates Hall of Fame. Good for him. Now let's do the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame, where he also belongs. And I'm not even a Barry Bonds fan, but I have always taken the stance when it comes to the PED era and these guys and the cream and the clear and all that stuff. Put them all in. Put them all in. People are smart enough to know what they saw with their own eyes, who's a Hall of Famer and who isn't. Just put them all in. You want to note something on their plaque or in the hall, whatever, fine. Just put them all in. Bonds belongs in the Hall of Fame.
You're exactly right. Everything you just said is 100% factual and correct. People forget that era of baseball saved baseball at a time when the sport was really struggling there for a minute.
Floundering.
So many things you could say about this. We're keeping Barry Bonds out of the Hall of Fame because he was juicing, but the pitchers who were juicing and pitching against him, oh no, they're in the Hall of Fame. That's just fine. We're not even going to consider that Barry Bonds was a 3-time MVP, 3-time Gold Glove winner, 3-time Silver Slugger winner before he even started taking steroids. What about the season that Barry Bonds hit 336 over the course of the season? That was before steroids. Oh yeah, the 2 seasons where his OPS was twice as good as the league average hitter. Those were both before steroids too. The argument that Barry Bonds should not be in the Hall of Fame because of steroids at this point is just factually incorrect. I don't know how people can sit here and defend that take at this point. It's just the geezer take that these 70-year-old Hall of Fame voters want to continue to have because they got upset that Barry Bonds hit a ball way farther than Ted Williams could when there was no stadium and the wind blew it 570 feet. I'm done with this.
The only thing missing from that rant from you was, you want me on that wall. You need me on that wall. We use words like honor, code. I mean, that was great. I love it. Nice job. Jack would be proud. Jack would be proud, and so would Barry. And by the way, I could go on sports radio tomorrow and host a show in San Francisco, and there will still be people that call me and say, oh, no, he wasn't on anything. He wasn't using anything, which cracks me up every time. There will be people that still say, well, he never tested positive for anything. One last note. This one from the world of the NFL as well. Pittsburgh awarded the NFL draft for 2026. 2025, it'll be in Green Bay. 2026, it will be in Pittsburgh. No idea where it will be in 2027. I'm guessing it won't be Jacksonville. It's going to do it for us. Thank you to Patrick McEnroe for hanging out on the show. Thanks to you, Sam Yarnell. Yeoman's work as always. We're back with you on Thursday for another edition of Sports Wrap. Until then, I'm Jason Page. Bye-bye.